Hi, this is Tobias coming to you from my Wizard's Corner. I'm excited about tonight's subject. I know many of you classify yourselves as not storytellers, but I'm sorry, you're wrong about that. Stories are how humans make sense of our world. They're the basis of how we both remember and understand the events of our lives. Without story, pretty much all performance pieces would become unintelligible. Even something as abstract as gazing through a kaleidoscope gradually becomes a story in our minds, or we forget it. Oh, what a cool pattern, all jaggy and mostly blue and violet. Oh, look, there it shifted suddenly. Now it's all yellow with bigger bits and bright like sunshine. And oh, there, look how it just kind of floats into the next pattern. That's a story. Whenever we describe events, we are telling stories. So the question really is, what makes a good story? Now, I know you've heard me talk before about the importance of stories, how characters with motivations and goals come into conflict, and that the resolution of those conflicts is how we create drama. All good information, but I'd like to take things a little bit further in this talk tonight. Look at it from a different angle. So think for a moment about what your favorite movies and books are. Most of us have a preferred kind of stories that we like to read and watch. Do you like science fiction, mysteries, romances, action and adventure, spy stories, ghost stories? Each of these kinds of stories has a slightly different kind of structure. And for those of us experiencing the story, there are certain expectations that we have for each kind of story. For example, in a detective story, we'll almost always start out with a crime. And not just any crime, a crime that presents a mystery. We'll be presented with the likely culprits and be introduced to a detective character or more, maybe a group of detectives. The story will be made up of the detective character interacting with all the likely culprits until they figure out who the perpetrator is, and then we'll have a climax where the perpetrator is identified and captured. That's the basic structure of a detective story. Now, there will, of course, be false leads, sudden reversals, things like that on the way to figuring out who done it. That's the joy of the detective story. A romance will have a quite different structure. So, what kind of stories do you like most? What are their distinguishing characteristics? What's always in that kind of a story? Can you find ways to tell that kind of story with your magic? Once you identify the kind of story that each of your magical performance pieces is, you can then go through and find out if all the parts that we expect are there. If not, you can add them in. Have you adequately introduced the primary characters, the hero or heroine, the antagonist, other significant parties? Have you let us know what each one's goals are, what their plans are for achieving those goals? Have you defined what your story is about? Have you built appropriate rising action, reversals, and the like into the story? Do you know what the crisis and climax points are? Have you constructed an appropriate denouement, a good tagline, that lets your audience know the story has come to a satisfactory conclusion and it's time to applaud? Have you wrapped up all the loose ends for each one of the story's characters? Now, if you've done all that, you might still be able to find ways to make each aspect more interesting and exciting. I had a great acting teacher once who, once we had worked through our scenes several times and made them as true to life as possible, would challenge us to go back and, as he put it, make bigger choices. This was the key to improving the story that we were telling with our acting, from the merely interesting and good to becoming really special, unique, and achieving real creativity and excellence. It's a great challenge to give yourselves. Till next week then, this is Tobias Beckwith, coming to you from my Wizard's Corner here on the beautiful San Francisco Bay. Now back to Jeff McBride and the whole gang in Las Vegas and around the world. Good night.